Hi, Omar Perez here. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine.
Hi, this is Dr. McComas here at North Point Orthopedics, here with my partner, Dr. Ben St. Clair. First video is Dolphins playing the Bears.
Here we go with the first one from the Miami Dolphins. It seems to be a running back that as he goes to the end zone, he does a free fall and lands on his head.
He's a running back. Ooh! That is a flexion injury. I wonder if he had a teardrop fracture.
What you see here, the first responders in the field are the athletic trainers. There's a protocol involved for spine injuries. Most important thing, you never take the shoulder pads or the helmet. They are equipped with tools to remove the face mask. If he's facing up, they talk to him, make sure the patient is conscious, and then assess the airway, breathing, and circulation.
So it looks like he falls flat, crown of his head, bends his neck there, bang, and so that's a flexion injury, and most likely these need surgery, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, the majority of the time these need surgery.
Calvin's gonna get us a second one here.
Falcons and the Lions. Boom, head extends back, oof. That's a concussion. Did he move his arm? He had a fencing response. Sometimes when you see these kinds of concussions, you can watch the arm extend like that, like a fencer. When you watch people after they have a head injury, sometimes you'll see kind of a response that the brain is supposed to tell you not to do.
Perhaps a running back knees him on the head. You see the player resting almost in a fetal position, almost unconscious. Instantaneously, if a patient loses consciousness in the field, the minimum they have is a concussion, the minimum. The same protocol as the previous injury. If the player gets back consciousness, no neck pain, normal signs, then they get to go to the tent or to the training room, and then they begin a mini mental exam. There are different type of tests that assess whether the patient has a concussion. Once the patient is breathing, the patient is alert, then they transfer the player to the hardboard, rush him to emergency care. The NFL has a neurosurgeon that it's independent, or is not affiliated with the organization, and that's in order to not create bias. Perhaps had a minor injury, he can go back to play. No, it's independent contractor in order to not be biased by the people that are paying them. Instead, there are advocates for the player. This is a pretty nasty injury. The guy just got pretty much a free fall on the whole weight of his body on top of his head. This is pretty much like a head dive into the ground. His
neck extends back. He was probably concussed. That's something that I think is less likely to have required surgery. The NFL rules now are very specific because of the concussion protocol, and so I can't quote it exactly. I mean, they'll put people on the 7-day list. It sometimes depends on how many head injuries they've had. Recovery from a concussion can take a while, and so it is something that you have to monitor very closely, and it can be a pretty dangerous injury that has ramifications even for people over time. So it's a big deal.
And then they begin a mini mental exam. There are different type of tests that assess whether the patient has a concussion. And you also have to look for any other symptoms such as sensitivity to light, amnesia, headaches, neck pain. Sometimes they can have nausea and vomit. If they have more severe symptoms, you rush them to the hospital, do a CT scan of the head, make sure there's no intracranial bleeding, because that is a surgical emergency. When I was trained in training, I covered the University of Houston Cougars, and during practice there was a guy that had a pretty bad concussion. They noticed it because he was indoors, so there was no heat involved. After he got hit, he started throwing up and didn't make sense of what he was saying. I had to take him to the hospital, be with him, do a CT scan, make sure the CT scan was negative, and the patient went home. Following the concussion, you need to go through a concussion protocol, monitor every day for recovery, and the minimum you can be out 7 days roughly. Yeah, this is clearly minimum a concussion with that hit knee against helmet.